Graham was still holding up his glass when he gave another woman the code to my wine cellar. "To loyalty," he said, smiling at me across 12th-anniversary candles Vivian had jammed into a grocery store tiramisu. The thing that keeps a marriage alive? Celia Voss touched her glass to his. "I'll drink to that." She had been drinking to most things. When she admired the Barolo, Graham leaned close enough for her perfume to interrupt the garlic and rosemary in the room. He took her phone and tapped in 6 numbers. "Downstairs, second door on the left," he said. "Bring up whatever looks good." "That's Elise's domain," Celia said, already standing. "My son lives here, too," Vivian replied. "It's a wine cellar, not a nuclear bunker." "The code is 041914, Graham said. "Easy. The day we moved into this house, Celia disappeared down the basement stairs while Graham and Vivian laughed about nuclear grapes. Beneath the table, my phone vibrated. Unrecognized cellar visit flagged. I looked at my husband, waiting for him to look guilty. He looked relieved. That was the question I couldn't answer. What had Celia been waiting to take that he was so glad I had finally allowed her near? I had not invited her. Vivian had arrived with Celia on her arm and an apology that somehow blamed me. "Celia's hotel lost her reservation," she'd said, sailing through my front door in a silver wrap that she'd glitter on the black tile. I told her she couldn't spend Saturday night eating room service fries. "It didn't lose my reservation," Celia had said. "They overbooked." Same result. Graham had been behind me in the hall. He'd kissed my cheek, then looked at Celia with a flicker of concern too practiced to be new. "Of course she should stay for dinner," he'd said. It was our anniversary. Celia was a consultant on 2 of Graham's hotel projects. I had met her at restaurant openings and holiday parties, always laughing beside a person more important than she was. She had a low voice, excellent posture, and the unnerving habit of remembering how everyone took their coffee. 6 months earlier, she'd finalized a divorce Graham discussed more often than I did. Now she was in my basement with my cellar code. I opened the inventory alert. The service had been installed after a compressor failed during a July heat wave. Nearly $4,000 of wine had spent a humid weekend warming beneath our feet, while Graham and I were in Maine. After that, every bottle received a small radio frequency tag beneath a cream paper neck label. The cellar door logged entries, and a camera over the sorting table recorded movement if the system was armed. Graham had teased me about it. "You built airport security for Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir doesn't lie about where it's been." He had laughed then. He did not laugh now when he noticed the blue light from my screen. "Work?" he asked. "Inventory." His gaze dropped to the basement door. The app loaded slowly. A gray circle turned while Vivian cut herself a second piece of tiramisu with the cake server she had given us for our wedding. "You should use that more," she said, pointing the server at me. 12 years and it still looks new." "We use a knife." "Then why register for silver?" "I didn't. I added it." "Of course you did." Celia's heels sounded on the stairs. She returned carrying a burgundy in one hand and nothing in the other. The bottle was dark, its cream tag hanging backward. "This one looked mysterious," she said. I knew the bottle from the wax seal, Domaine de la Romanée Conti et Chaiseau, 2008. It belonged to Martin Cho, whose new restaurant storage room had failed its humidity inspection. I was holding 6 bottles for him through the end of the month. Graham stood so quickly his napkin fell. "Maybe not that one." Celia's eyebrows rose. "It's a client bottle," I said. "Oh, God." She offered it to me immediately. "I'm sorry." I saw the handwritten tag and thought that meant personal. The tag said, "M. Cho Hold." My handwriting was not cryptic. Graham took the bottle from her. No harm done. The app finished loading. 2 tags had left their assigned positions. Martin's Burgundy was one. The other was our 2004 Barolo, the bottle Graham and I had bought in Piedmont during the only vacation where neither of us had checked email after the second day. We'd been married 3 years. At a tiny vineyard outside Lamora, we'd bought one bottle we could afford to drink and one we couldn't. Graham tied a paper napkin around the expensive bottle and wrote 20 on it in purple pen. "Anniversary," he'd told the vineyard owner, "if she still likes me." The owner had looked at me. "Keep the wine, we'll see about him." The Barolo was no longer in its rack. Celia rested one hand on the back of her chair. A padded leather tote hung from her shoulder now. It hadn't when she went downstairs. "Did you pick up another bottle?" I asked. She went very still. Vivian sighed. "Elise, it says 2 bottles were moved." "I looked around," Celia said. "Maybe I touched one." "The tags don't register a bottle leaving its slot because someone looked at it. Graham set Martin's Burgundy on the sideboard with excessive care. Can we not do this at the table? Where would you like to do it?" His face changed. It wasn't anger. Anger would have been easier. It was the warning look he used when I contradicted him in front of clients. Celia opened her tote. "Please, search it." She held it toward me. Vivian put down the cake server. "Absolutely not." The bag's top gaped wide enough to show a wallet, sunglasses, a rolled silk scarf, and a hotel key sleeve. There could have been a bottle beneath the scarf. There could have been nothing. I looked at Graham. He knew exactly what I was asking. "Go downstairs. Check the rack. Ask her plainly. Stand beside me in the uncomfortable version of the room." Instead, he said, "Elise, disable the alert. You're embarrassing her." For 1 second, all the little noises in the house separated: the refrigerator motor, rain at the back windows, a spoon ticking against Vivian's plate. Celia lowered her bag. "I should go," she said. "You don't have to," Graham told her. He said it too fast. Vivian reached for Celia's wrist. "You were invited into this house. Don't let a malfunctioning app make you feel like a criminal. The app isn't malfunctioning." "Harmless hospitality," Vivian said. "That's all this was. Graham offered a guest a bottle of wine. 2 bottles. "I didn't take anything," Celia said. She sounded offended now, which steadied her. The uncertainty had passed. She had chosen her role. Graham rubbed the bridge of his nose. "This is our anniversary dinner." "Yes," I said. "I noticed." I took Martin's bottle from the sideboard and carried it downstairs. The cellar sat behind a cedar door at the end of the finished hallway, opposite Graham's exercise room. The keypad glowed blue. I entered the code he had just handed away and heard Celia's footsteps cross the dining room above me. The cool air inside smelled faintly of cedar shelves, cork, and the limestone tile I had insisted on, despite Graham calling it mausoleum chic. Bottles lay in dark rows. Cream tags hung from their necks like small luggage labels, some printed by the inventory company, some written by me. Martin's empty slot was in the locked client rack. The brass latch had been left open. Our Barolo slot was empty too. I set the Burgundy back and checked the floor, the sorting table, and the lower racks as though a bottle might have rolled away politely. The motion camera above me showed a steady green light. I opened the app, selected the visit, and watched the clip. Celia entered smiling. She went directly to the Piedmont rack. Not browsing, not studying labels, directly to it. She took out our Barolo, turned the cream tag toward the camera, and read 20. Then she slipped the bottle into her tote. After that, she crossed to the client section, opened the unlatched brass hook, and selected Martin's Burgundy. She held it up to the light, smiling again. Graham appeared in the doorway behind her. The camera had caught only his shoulder and part of his face. Celia said something. There was no audio. He reached toward her bag. For a hopeful second, I thought he was taking the Barolo out. Then he folded her scarf over it. I watched the 12-second clip twice. On the second viewing, I noticed Graham tap 2 fingers against her hip before he left. The cellar door opened behind me. He stood there with his hands in his pockets. He had removed his tie, a navy silk one I'd given him that morning. "Celia's upset." "Is she?" "You accused her of stealing." I asked if she had another bottle. Same implication. I held up my phone. She took the Barolo. His eyes moved toward the empty slot. So she grabbed the wrong bottle. She read the tag. She doesn't know what it means. You did. He stared at me long enough to make the truth feel negotiable. Upstairs, Vivian called, "Graham?" He shut the cellar door behind him. "The client bottle is back," he said quietly. "The Barolo is ours." "Ours? Don't do that." "Do what?" "Turn one stupid thing into a referendum on our marriage. You gave her our cellar code at our anniversary dinner. She went straight to a bottle we were saving for our 20th. You saw her put it in her bag, and you helped cover it." His jaw tightened. It helped. "She asked about it weeks ago. I told her the story. She thought it was funny." "What part?" "The 20-year thing. How serious you are about every occasion having an assigned bottle. So she took it as a joke?" "I was going to get it back." "When?" "Tomorrow." "After what?" He looked toward the door. That was answer enough, but my mind kept rejecting it on technical grounds. Tomorrow could mean after a hotel meeting, after a client dinner, after she sobered up. A marriage could survive inside the word "after" for years if you never forced the sentence to finish. I looked past him at the cedar door. "Did you give her Vivian's emergency code before tonight?" "No." The lie came with no delay at all. I opened the access log. The owner code had been used twice while I was out of town the previous month. Once on a Tuesday at 9:42 p.m., when Graham had told me he was having dinner with investors. Once on a Sunday afternoon while he said he was helping Vivian move patio furniture into storage. At the time, I had assumed Graham used my code because he'd forgotten his own. He claimed the Cellar felt too managed and refused an individual PIN when the system was installed. I had left Vivian an emergency number in a sealed envelope because she watered our plants when we traveled. Both visits were labeled primary access. I turned the screen toward him. "Who was here?" He didn't look at it. "I don't remember." "You remember a bottle Celia asked about weeks ago?" Because she asked about it. And then came to our anniversary dinner with a padded wine tote. It's a work bag. It has bottle dividers. She consults for hotels. Do hotels pay her in Merlot? Despite himself, his mouth twitched. For 12 years, that tiny, surrendered smile had been the place our arguments went to die. I had always loved that I could still make him laugh when he was impossible. This time, I didn't smile back. His face closed. "You've had too much wine," he said. "Get my bottle." "You're not listening." "No, I'm finally being extremely literal. Go upstairs, ask Celia for the Barolo, and bring it back. If I do that, will you stop?" "Stop what?" "Making a scene. We're in a cellar. You know what I mean." I did. A scene was any visible consequence that reached someone Graham wanted to impress. A disagreement was what happened privately, where I could be worn down. He opened the door. Cool air spilled into the hallway. "I'll handle it," he said. "When?" But he was already walking upstairs. I stayed among the bottles until I heard the front door close. Then Vivian's voice, low and urgent. Graham answering. A car started in the driveway. I went up carrying the anniversary candles because I found them in the trash beside the basement stairs. Vivian had dropped them there on her way out. 12 short white sticks burned down by less than an inch. She was in the kitchen wrapping tiramisu in foil. "Celia left?" I asked. She was humiliated. "Did she take my wine?" Vivian pressed the foil over the plate's edge. Her nails were the same dark red as the Barolo label. "My son is under extraordinary pressure," she said. "That wasn't my question." "Your husband is trying to save a business while you monitor every bottle, every dollar, every favor. A man can feel like a guest in his own life." "Did you give him the emergency code?" "He shouldn't need an emergency code. That code was for you. And Graham is my son." There it was, Vivian's simple theology. Anything placed in her hand remained available to him. Anything he wanted became a need. Anyone who objected had misunderstood family. Graham came in through the mudroom alone. His hands were empty. "She'd already left," he said. "You watched her leave through the front door." She wouldn't answer when I called. You didn't go after her. It's raining, Elise. I'm not chasing someone through the city over a bottle we own. Vivian picked up her wrapped dessert. This night has become ugly enough. She kissed Graham on the cheek. At the doorway, she looked back at me. You might ask yourself why catching people matters more to you than trusting them. After she left, Graham gathered glasses from the dining room as if the evening had merely run late. He poured the unfinished Barolo from dinner down the sink. Was that necessary? I asked. It's oxidized. It's been open 2 hours. I don't want it. He rinsed the bottle, set it upside down, and walked upstairs. I stood in the kitchen beneath the soft pendant lights we had chosen together, with Vivian's glitter on the floor and 12 candles in my palm. Then I returned to the cellar and changed the code. The app asked whether I wanted to revoke all active credentials. I pressed yes. One by one, the access lines turned red. Graham Mercer revoked. Vivian Mercer revoked. Primary code replaced. At the bottom of the visit, record was a button I had never used. Preserve video and audit data. I pressed that too. Upstairs, Graham called my name. I took the cream tag from the empty Barolo slot and folded it once along the word 20. Then I put it in my pocket and turned off the cellar light. The knob turned behind me, then stopped against the new lock. Elise. I left him on the other side long enough to slide the folded tag deeper into my pocket. What did you do? I opened the door. Graham stood barefoot in the hallway, his shirt unbuttoned at the throat. The blue keypad reflected in his face. You changed the code? Yes. To what? A different number. He waited. When I didn't supply it, he gave a short laugh. You're locking me out of a room in my own house. I'm locking Celia out. She doesn't know the new code. That's how codes work. He put his palm on the cedar door, blocking me from closing it. You're angry. Fine. But don't make permanent decisions at midnight. It's not permanent. The code can be changed again. Then give it to me. No. His hand stayed on the door. Graham was taller than I was, but he had never used his size in an argument. He didn't use it now. He just occupied the opening with the confidence of someone who had always expected me to yield first. You can sleep in the guest room, I said. His expression hardened. You think I'm sleeping in the guest room because Celia grabbed the wrong wine? No. I think you're sleeping there because you watched her take the right wine. I closed the door. His palm slid away before the edge reached it. In the bedroom, I removed my earrings, wiped off my makeup, and lined up my face cream and watch on the vanity as though routine might still count for something. Graham came in to collect a pillow. He moved loudly, opening drawers he knew didn't contain pillowcases, letting hangers knock together. What exactly are you accusing me of? He asked. I looked at him in the mirror. Do you want me to say it so you can deny it? I want to know how far you've gone in your head. How far have you gone? He found the pillow at the head of the bed where it had been all evening. Celia and I worked together. So you've said. She's going through a bad time. She stole our anniversary bottle. She made a stupid joke. With your help. He held the pillow against his chest. You have a video without sound and an app that treats moving wine like a home invasion. I have eyes. Then use them. If I were having an affair, would I invite her to dinner with my wife and mother? You didn't invite her. Your mother did. The flicker in his face was small but clean. You planned it, I said. No. Vivian brought her because you asked. I told Mom her hotel had a problem. How did you know that? She called me. Why? Because I helped book the room for the project. At the Hawthorne, 8 minutes from her apartment? He looked away. I hadn't known where Celia lived until that moment. I had only remembered her mentioning the Hawthorne's rooftop renovation at a launch party, then complaining that she could see it from her own building. Graham's answer had turned a loose fact into a map. It wasn't her room, he said. It was for a client flying in. He canceled. Mom got confused. Vivian thought Celia would be alone in a hotel room she didn't need, so she rescued her by bringing her to our anniversary. It sounds ridiculous when you stack it up like that. It was ridiculous, one piece at a time. He took his phone from the nightstand. I'm not doing this tonight. Get the bottle back tomorrow. He paused at the door. If you care more about that bottle than you do about us, that tells me something. So does leaving it with her. He slept in the guest room. At 2 in the morning, I heard the shower in the hall bathroom. At 3, light showed beneath the door. At 5, his car backed out of the driveway. I was already awake. At 7, I made coffee and opened the Cellar report on my laptop. The preserved video came with entry data, tag movements, temperature records, and still images taken when each bottle crossed the sorting zone. The Barolo's final image showed half its label above brown leather. Celia's tote. Martin's Burgundy had a cleaner trail, removed at 8:47, returned at 8:56, temperature unchanged. The client rack showed no earlier disturbance. I checked the 2 visits from the previous month. The camera archive kept 90 days. On the Tuesday night, Vivian entered wearing a raincoat and carrying her canvas grocery bag. Graham followed. He selected 3 bottles from my business entertainment rack, scanned none of them, and handed them to her. She left with the bag heavier. On Sunday, Graham entered alone. He took a California Cabernet and 2 bottles of champagne. Before leaving, he reached up and turned the cream tags backward. The childishness of that gesture hurt more than the value. He knew I read the tags when I checked the racks. Turning them hid the names without removing anything. It was the kind of trick someone tried because he had decided your attention was a flaw to manage. I downloaded both clips. At 8:15, Graham texted, "Early client call. We'll talk later. Please don't involve Mom or Celia." I read the message twice, then called Vivian. She answered in a whisper, "I'm at Pilates." "You used your emergency Cellar code twice last month." A pause followed by the muffled thump of a door closing. I helped Graham pick up wine for work. "You took 3 bottles." He needed them for a dinner. His hands were full. "What dinner?" "Oh, honestly, Elise, I don't keep his calendar." "Did he give them to Celia?" "I don't know." It was the first answer of hers I believed. "The code is canceled," I said. "So is your emergency key." "My what?" "The house key. I'll pick it up today." "Don't be dramatic. You gave it to me. For emergencies. And if there's an emergency, we'll call someone who respects locked doors." Her breathing sharpened. "This is because I defended a guest in your home. This is because you used access I gave you to help Graham hide things from me. Wine, Elise. He hid wine. You make it sound sordid because you enjoy the upper hand. Did you know about Celia?" "Know what?" "That Graham is sleeping with her." She went silent. A Pilates instructor called her name in the distance. Finally, Vivian said, "My son has been unhappy for a long time." It wasn't an admission exactly. It was worse. An admission would have required surprise. I set down my coffee before I dropped it. "How long have you been helping him?" "I have not helped anyone conduct an affair. I have listened to my son. There's a difference." "Was last night your idea?" She was stranded. 8 minutes from her apartment. She didn't want to go home. "So you brought her to mine." "I brought a lonely woman to dinner. If you had behaved with grace, it could have been a pleasant evening." A laugh came out of me. It sounded rough and unfamiliar. Vivian lowered her voice. "Whatever has happened between Graham and Celia, humiliating him will not repair your marriage. You're worried about his humiliation? I'm worried about both of you. No, you're worried I'll stop making this comfortable. You're not the only person who has contributed to that house." I looked around the kitchen at the glitter caught between 2 floor tiles. "Bring the key by noon," I said. "I have appointments." "I'll have the lock changed at 1. "You wouldn't. Then save me the money." She hung up. At 9, I drove to Common Table Supply. Our warehouse occupied the ground floor of a converted printing building I had bought with a commercial loan 6 years before. The front half held sample kitchens and shelves of glassware. The rear held restaurant linens, serving pieces, and enough cardboard to build a second building if someone found tape. Graham's consultancy rented 3 offices upstairs. Rented was generous. His company paid less than half the rate of the architecture firm across the hall, and that was when his payments arrived. Nina Patel met me near the stairs with a clipboard under one arm and 2 coffees. "Before you ask, this one is yours," she said, offering me the black coffee. "The oat milk situation upstairs has become political." Nina had been Graham's assistant for 5 years. She was compact, blunt, and loyal in a way that made her seem older than 31, and Graham seem younger than 45. "Is he here?" He canceled his morning. He said family matter. "Did Celia come in?" Nina's eyes stayed on mine a fraction too long. "Not yet." "Does she usually?" "She consults on the Langford and North Pier accounts." That wasn't my question. Nina shifted the clipboard. "She's here more than the project requires." There was no satisfaction in her voice. Nina liked Graham, or had. She also liked accurate calendars. "How much more?" "Elise, I'm not asking you to spy on your boss." "Good, because I won't." "Did he have dinner with investors 2 Tuesdays ago?" Her lips pressed together. "No, the investor dinner was canceled at 4. "And Sunday afternoon?" "He told me he was helping Vivian." I nodded. "Thank you." Nina glanced toward the stairs. "Should I expect something?" "I don't know yet." Graham gets reckless when he thinks he's cornered. It was an odd sentence from someone holding his schedule and buying his oat milk. "You've seen that before?" "I've seen him negotiate." She handed me the second coffee. "Take this upstairs. He'll know I talked to you if you arrive empty-handed." His office smelled like cedar cologne and printer toner. A framed photograph of us stood behind his desk, taken in Piedmont, with our faces pink from sun and wine. Graham had one arm around me and the purple pen between his teeth. I turned the photograph face down. Then I opened the lease file. His 3-year term ended in 60 days. The renewal draft on my desk continued the reduced rate because I had prepared it 2 weeks earlier, before our anniversary, before Celia's leather tote. I removed the draft and wrote a note for our property manager. Market rate proposal, standard terms, no family adjustment. That was all. It did not feel like revenge. It felt like correcting a number. At 10:30, my bank app notified me that Graham had transferred $30,000 from our joint household account to an individual account at another bank. The coffee went cold in my hand. I called him. He declined the call. I tried again. Voicemail. His text arrived a moment later. "Protecting my operating funds until you calm down. You're using money and property to control access to my own life. The joint account paid our mortgage, utilities, taxes, and household staff. His operating funds did not belong there. His consultancy had its own accounts, though I had covered shortfalls more than once when hotel clients paid late. I typed, 'Return it.' 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again. 'We'll discuss with someone neutral.' He meant Vivian. Graham considered his mother neutral because she loved him without requiring evidence. I called our accountant, told her no unusual transfers were to be made from any business account without my direct approval, and asked for a current list of recurring personal charges on my cards. The answer arrived before lunch. Vivian's country club dues, her wine subscription, her monthly car service credit, Graham's club lunches, 2 software services for his company, and the insurance on a Mercedes titled in his name. Tiny arrangements accumulated over 12 years until they looked like weather. I canceled Vivian's wine subscription first. At 12:10, she walked into the warehouse with my house key pinched between 2 fingers. She dropped it on the counter among the sample forks. "You've made your point," she said. "I haven't made one yet." Graham told me about the money. He was frightened. He took $30,000. He moved marital funds so you couldn't freeze him out. I changed a Cellar code. "You threatened his office." "I haven't spoken to him about his office." Her eyes flicked toward the ceiling, so Graham had already considered the lease. "You're dismantling his life over a flirtation." The word landed softly, too softly. Is that what he called it? He said Celia misread kindness. Did she misread his fingers on her hip? Vivian blinked. I had not shown her the video. For the first time since she entered, she looked uncertain. I picked up the key. Your club dues are due Friday, I said. You'll need to update the payment method. Color rose from her throat to her cheeks. You're canceling my membership? No, I'm canceling my card. That membership is how I support Graham's business. Then Graham's business can support it. She stared at me as if I had slapped a glass from her hand. You've been waiting for an excuse to do this. I've been waiting for gratitude. This is what happened instead. Her mouth opened, then closed. She turned and walked out past a display of white restaurant plates, her silver wrap trailing from her handbag like a torn flag. At 12:40, Martin Cho called. His greeting was clipped. I need my wine today. I can have it delivered within the hour. All 6 bottles. Of course. I heard there was unauthorized access to my property. My fingers tightened around the key. From whom? Graham. Upstairs, a door slammed. Martin continued. He said your cellar system generated a false theft warning during a private dinner, and now you're questioning whether my bottles were properly logged. That's not what happened. I'd like the bottles returned. I understand. I trusted you because you said your storage was secure. It was breached. The system caught it, and your bottle was returned to its rack within 9 minutes. So it was removed. Yes? By whom? Through the warehouse windows, I saw Graham cross the parking lot toward the entrance. I'll send you the complete movement record, I said, and the relevant video. Elise, I don't want to be dragged into a marital dispute. Neither did I. Graham came through the door while I was still holding the phone. Nina followed several paces behind him. His eyes found the key in my hand, then the canceled subscription list on the counter. What did you send Martin? Nothing yet. Don't. Martin was quiet on the line. Graham reached for my phone. I stepped back. Elise, he said, his voice low, if you distribute private footage of Celia, you're going to damage every working relationship we have. I looked at Nina. She looked at the floor. Then I looked at my husband. You already called him. I was protecting you. Martin heard that. His voice came through the phone, clear enough for Graham to hear. Send me the record, he said. All of it. The line went dead. Graham's face lost color. For the first time since Celia walked downstairs, he looked afraid of the same thing I did, what the facts would become once they belonged to someone else. Graham shut the warehouse office door and reached for the calm voice he used when a client threatened to leave. Martin doesn't understand the context. He understands that his bottle was removed from locked storage for 9 minutes by Celia. That detail serves no purpose except revenge. I sent the report while he watched. The video file was too large for email, so the inventory service created a secure link. Martin received the access history, the temperature record, and 2 clips, Celia removing his bottle, then me returning it. I included the timestamps and nothing about the Barolo. Graham watched my thumb touch send. You have no idea what you're doing. I'm answering a client. You're handing him a video of a consultant at a private dinner. I'm handing him evidence about his property. He's on the restaurant group's advisory board. I know. Then you know he can tank my North Pier contract. Celia carrying his burgundy around my dining room might do that. Nina moved toward the door. Graham turned on her. Stay. She stopped. Did you tell Elise my schedule? I answered 2 questions. You had no right. She asked whether the investor dinner was canceled. My calendar is confidential. Your calendar said you were working from home. His nostrils flared. You're discussing my calendar with my wife during a marital dispute. Nina's expression became professionally empty. Would you prefer I tell her you had investors when you didn't? Graham pointed toward the door. Go upstairs. She went. I picked up Vivian's key from the counter and slipped it into my purse. You took household money, I said. Put it back by the end of the day. Not until there's an agreement. There was an agreement. Joint household expenses. And you broke it when you started canceling family obligations. Your mother's wine club isn't a family obligation. She has brought me 3 clients from that club, then expense it through your company. You know I can't justify the full membership as business development. That was Graham's gift. He could locate the honest sentence by accident and still not hear it. Market rate lease proposal will be ready this week, I said. His stare sharpened. So Mom was right. I reviewed the file before she came. You're evicting my company. I'm renewing your lease on the same terms I'd offer anyone else. That increase could wipe out my margin. Then your margin isn't real. He came closer, dropping his voice. You built this company while I covered our life. I almost admired the speed of it. When? The first years, when you worked every weekend, when dinner was whatever I could find, when every trip became a vendor visit. You paid half the mortgage and ordered Thai food. I believed in you. Yes, you did. The truth slowed both of us. Graham had believed in Common Table before the banks did. He had introduced me to my first hotel buyer. He had spent one August driving sample chairs across 3 states when a freight company lost my shipment. Love had not been imaginary just because he had later used it as an invoice. I'm not erasing that, I said. But you don't get a lifetime discount for having once been my husband. I am your husband. The sentence sounded more like a claim than a reminder. He returned $20,000 that afternoon. The remaining 10, he texted, represented his contribution to shared assets he feared I would unilaterally restrict. I sent the message to our accountant and stopped arguing. Martin's courier arrived for the 6 bottles at 2. I watched each one get scanned into a padded case. Martin did not call again. By 5, the restaurant group postponed its final purchasing meeting with Common Table. The email cited questions concerning third-party storage controls and internal access procedures. Graham had reached them first. I read the email at my desk until the words lost shape. Common Table had spent 8 months preparing that proposal. We were supplying glassware, small equipment, linens, and table service for 5 restaurant openings. Losing it would not destroy us. It would cost enough to make every canceled subscription look childish. I drove home in the rain. The anniversary Barolo stood on the kitchen counter. Its cream tag was gone. A faint cut marked the foil below the cork where someone had sliced the string instead of untying it. Beside the bottle sat a hotel envelope with my name on it. I opened it. I'm sorry the evening became so uncomfortable. I genuinely misunderstood Graham's invitation and never intended to take something with emotional value. I hope we can keep personal tension from affecting our professional work. Celia had signed only her first name. Graham came in while I was reading. She returned it, he said. Through you. She dropped it at my office. Why is the tag cut off? I don't know. Did she give it back? His silence lasted half a beat too long. You went to get it, I said. I had a meeting near her building. You went to her apartment. I picked up a bottle from the doorman. You told me she wouldn't answer your calls. That was Saturday. It was Monday. 2 days had become a defense. I turned the bottle slowly. The purple 20 was folded in my pocket upstairs. The missing cream tag had been a newer one, written when I inventoried the cellar after the compressor failure. Mercer, 20th anniversary. Celia had removed the label that said exactly what she was taking, then written that she misunderstood. I want a complete statement of what you've spent on her, I said. Graham loosened his tie. I haven't spent money on Celia. Hotels, meals, wine, travel, those are business expenses. Then the statement should be easy. He leaned against the counter. What happens if I say we had dinner alone? I'd ask how many times. And if I say we kissed, I'd ask if you stopped. His eyes dropped to the bottle between us. What answer are you hoping for? One I can believe. I got too close to her. The kitchen seemed to tilt without moving. How close? It became emotional. That phrase was invented by people who want credit for keeping their clothes on. His face tightened. Do you want details or do you want honesty? I thought honesty had details. He walked to the window. Rain slid over the glass, blurring his reflection. It started when we were working late on North Pier. She was dealing with the divorce. I listened, that's all, at first. And then we kissed. Where? Does that matter? Yes. Her apartment. I looked at the bottle he claimed he had collected from the doorman. When? 2 months ago. Tuesday night or Sunday afternoon? He turned. I already knew. Both, I said. The wine wasn't for her. Then who? Clients. Which clients? He rubbed both hands over his face. This is impossible with you. You keep saying that when the next answer is worse. He crossed the kitchen and stood in front of me. I will end contact with Celia outside what's necessary to close the projects. Outside what's necessary. I can't blow up 2 contracts overnight. You're asking me to schedule your breakup around hotel deadlines. I'm asking you to act like my partner while I fix this. What do you want in return? Stop the market rate lease, restore the office arrangement, leave my mother out of it, and call the restaurant group before Martin turns a 9-minute mistake into a compliance issue. It was so neatly assembled that I wondered when he had prepared it. And if I do? I end it with Celia. Completely when the contracts transition. You're bargaining with access you shouldn't have given her. I'm trying to save our marriage. No, you're asking the marriage to save everything else. He reached for me, then let his hand fall before it touched my arm. I love you, Elise. I believed him. That was the unbearable part. Graham loved me in the way he loved the house, the cellar, his office upstairs from my warehouse, and the photograph from Piedmont. He loved what held him. He simply believed anything holding him had forfeited the right to close. I need time, I said. Hope moved across his face so openly that I nearly mistook it for change. He slept in our bed that night. I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing and trying to imagine the cost of dismantling 12 years. The rooms had been chosen together, the mortgage, the holidays, the Thursday takeout, the coffee mugs with handles that fit our hands. Leaving him meant leaving the future hidden inside ordinary objects. Before dawn, I carried the Barolo downstairs. Its old slot waited between 2 Barbarescos. I tied on a blank cream tag and set the bottle in place without writing anything. At 8, Vivian arrived with a locksmith. Graham let them in. I found the 3 of them in the basement hallway. Vivian wore cream trousers and a camel coat. The locksmith, a tired man named Ray according to his stitched shirt, was examining the cellar keypad. "What is this?" I asked. Vivian held up both hands. A practical solution. "Ray, don't touch the lock." He straightened immediately. "Ma'am, I was told the keypad failed." "It didn't." Graham stepped between us. "I need access to the cellar for Thursday." "What's Thursday?" "The Meridian investors are coming for a tasting." "At the house?" "It's been on the calendar for weeks." "Not mine." Vivian folded her arms. "You've hosted Graham's tastings for years." "I'm not hosting this one." "We're not asking you to host," Graham said. "The caterer will handle it. In my dining room with my wine." "Our dining room." Ray lifted his tool case. "Sounds like you folks need to work out authorization." "The house is jointly occupied," Vivian said. "My son has a right to enter every room." Ray looked at me. "Is there some urgent safety issue? Electrical panel, water shutoff?" "No." "Then I'm going to step out." Vivian's mouth tightened as he left. Graham waited until the front door closed. "You embarrassed my mother in front of a tradesman." "Your mother brought him to break into my cellar, to open a room in your husband's home." I looked at Vivian. "You knew about Celia." She glanced at Graham, then back at me. "I knew he was lonely." "You knew he kissed her." "Elise," Graham warned. Vivian's chin lifted. He told me he had feelings he was trying to understand. "And you brought her to our anniversary dinner." I thought seeing the 2 of you together might remind him what he had. For once, her explanation surprised me enough to hurt. "You used me as a demonstration." I was trying to keep him from making a terrible mistake. He had already made it. I didn't know how far it had gone. Far enough for you to help him steal wine. Her face crumpled for an instant, then reset. Graham said, "The Meridian tasting happens Thursday. It's critical. Rent a venue. They want to see the private cellar concept. Then show them Celia's." He flinched. I went upstairs and called the property manager. I told her to send Graham the market rate renewal. Then I called the restaurant group and asked for a meeting to address their concerns. Their chief operating officer gave me 20 minutes Friday morning and suggested I bring independent verification. At the warehouse, Nina was waiting inside my office. She closed the door and placed a folder on my desk. "I'm not giving you Graham's private company records," she said. "These are copies of charges submitted to Common Table for reimbursement, event expenses billed through the building account, and invoices where your approval line was reused." Reused. He copied your signature page from an older vendor form. The folder contained hotel rooms, car services, restaurant bills, and wine purchases. Celia's name appeared beside 3 events. Graham's appeared beside all of them. Nina looked exhausted. "Why now?" I asked. "Because he told the restaurant group your systems were unreliable." Her voice went flat. "I built those access procedures. Changing alliances did not arrive with speeches. Sometimes it arrived angry about a spreadsheet." At the bottom of the folder lay Thursday's catering order. 12 guests, dining room service, cellar tasting. One handwritten note from Graham to the caterer had been boxed in red by Nina. "Elise will participate when she calms down." I read it twice. Then I put the folder in my locked drawer. "Don't cancel the caterer," I said. Nina studied my face. "Are you sure?" "No," I said. "But let him think I've calmed down." Nina nodded once, but she didn't move. "What are you going to do?" "My husband wants me to participate." That sentence worries me. It should worry him. She picked up her clipboard. At the door, she turned back. "The Meridian people are serious. If they think they're being pulled into a domestic ambush, they'll walk away from everyone." I know. "And Celia is presenting the North Pier concept." Of course she was. Did Graham tell her to come? "She's on the latest agenda. So much for ending contact. Graham had not even waited for me to agree to his bargain before breaking it. After Nina left, I reviewed every document in the folder. Most were ordinary enough to disappear into a busy month. 2 dinners described as development meetings, car services from the Hawthorne, a weekend room charged during the North Pier site review. The signature page Graham reused had approved event reimbursements up to $5,000. He had attached it to 3 later batches I had never seen. The total wouldn't ruin either company. The pattern mattered more. Graham had built private indulgences inside shared expenses, then relied on their smallness to make objections seem petty. I scanned only the documents connected to Common Table and the building account. Nina kept the originals upstairs. I sent copies to our accountant and asked her to separate disputed charges from the legitimate reimbursements. Then I called Graham. "I'll be there Thursday," I said. His breath released. "Good. I'll present the cellar controls." "That's not necessary. The restaurant group questioned them because of what you said. Meridian is investing in a private cellar concept. It's exactly necessary." I told them there was confusion, not a systems failure. Then the report will reassure them. A pause. "Fine," he said. "Keep it brief." "I will." He mistook cooperation for surrender because, for years, surrender had looked exactly like cooperation. When I got home, the dining table was covered with glassware samples. Graham had pulled 3 cases from Common Table stock without signing them out. I photographed the lot numbers and sent them to the warehouse manager. He came in carrying flowers and stopped when he saw me. "Peace offering," he said. The arrangement was expensive and strange, white roses, green berries, purple flowers that looked bruised at the edges. "Did Celia choose those?" His face answered first. "They were already arranged at the florist. She chose the North Pier lobby flowers in the same colors. You're determined to poison everything. No, I'm getting better at reading labels. He set the vase on the table. I told her our personal relationship is over. But she's coming Thursday. She's a consultant. I said I would transition the contracts. You said you would if I restored your lease and protected you from consequences. I'm trying, Elise. You keep calling delay an effort. He walked past me toward the cellar. The keypad rejected his code. He stared at it, then turned. I need to choose wine. Send me the list. I'd like the Barolo included. No, it would mean something. It already does. His expression softened. Maybe we can give it a new meaning. For one exhausted second, I wanted that. I wanted him to take the bottle upstairs, open it too early, and make the whole thing smaller than it was. A bad month, a stupid kiss, a marriage dented but standing. Send me the list, I repeated. I selected 6 Meridian bottles from his request and placed them on the sorting table. When I returned with packing sleeves, Graham was in the cellar. He had used the open door while I was upstairs. He stood at the Piedmont rack with the Barolo in his hands. I said no. I'm putting it back. He tied a cream tag around the neck and slid the bottle into its slot. After he left, I turned the tag over. For when Elise forgives me. His handwriting was still slanted and energetic, though the purple vineyard pen was long gone. He had taken my blank label and assigned my future to it. I removed the tag, carried it upstairs, and set it beside his place at the dining table. He never mentioned it. The caterers arrived at 4 on Thursday. By 6, the house smelled of brown butter, thyme, and furniture polish. Vivian appeared in black silk with a small gold Cellar key pinned to her lapel like a joke designed for one person. Graham gave it to me years ago, she said when she caught me looking. Decorative. It suits you. She touched my arm. He says you two are working things out. He says many things. Her hand dropped. Nina managed the guest list near the front door. Celia arrived alone in a charcoal suit, carrying a laptop bag with no bottle dividers visible. She saw me and hesitated. Thank you for allowing me to attend. It's a business presentation. Yes. Her gaze moved toward the cellar stairs. The bottle was unopened, she said. The tag wasn't. I panicked. You took it deliberately. Graham said it would be funny. He said you'd see the alert and come downstairs, and he'd tease you about finally using the anniversary wine. What was supposed to happen after I came downstairs? She looked toward the dining room where Graham was greeting 2 Meridian partners. He said it would lighten the mood. Did the burgundy lighten it further? That was my mistake. The Barolo wasn't? She pressed her lips together. I'm not discussing Graham with you. You already did. You just used his explanation. She walked away. Dinner began smoothly. Graham was charming when charm had a measurable purpose. He spoke about intimate hospitality, private membership, and the value of making guests feel trusted. Vivian laughed in the right places. Celia demonstrated the North Pier reservation model and never looked at me. When the plates were cleared, Graham stood. Elise has kindly offered to explain the cellar system we're using as a model for Meridian. Kindly landed with the softness of a threat. I connected my laptop to the dining room screen. This is a standard inventory report, I said. It tracks authorized entry, bottle movement, storage conditions, and exceptions. The first screen showed green rows, bottle counts, and temperature history. One of the Meridian partners, Helen Ward, asked about guest privacy. The camera covers the sorting table and bottle racks, I said. It has no audio, and visit footage is retained for 90 days unless an incident is preserved. What triggers an incident? The other partner asked. Unexpected entry, removal from a restricted rack, or inventory moving without assignment. Graham leaned back in his chair. The controls can be calibrated so hospitality doesn't feel like surveillance. They can, I said. But overriding controls without recording access creates liability. I opened the report from our anniversary. The room changed before anyone spoke. Celia's name wasn't on the screen, neither was Graham's. It showed the primary code used, Martin's bottle leaving the client rack and the Barolo leaving its assigned slot. Graham's voice stayed smooth. This is the personal incident I mentioned. A guest selected the wrong bottle. She selected two, I said. One belonged to a client. Helen looked at him. You described a false system alert. I was given incomplete information that night. You were in the cellar, I said. I played the clip. Celia crossed directly to the Piedmont rack. She read the tag, put the bottle in her tote, then removed Martin's burgundy. Graham appeared behind her and folded the scarf over the Barolo. He stood so quickly his chair struck the wall. This has nothing to do with Meridian. It has everything to do with the controls you're asking them to finance. You're showing private footage without Celia's consent. Celia shut her laptop. You told me the camera wasn't active, she said. Graham looked at her. I said Elise rarely checked it. You said the alert would be funny. She misunderstood me, he told the table. Celia was going through a difficult period. She behaved impulsively, and I tried to contain the situation. Celia stared at him. Contain it? Sit down, he said quietly. She took out her phone instead. I still have your messages. Vivian whispered. Celia, don't. Celia read from the screen. Code is 041914. Take the Barolo with the cream tag that says anniversary. She'll get the ping. Maybe it will force her to stop treating the cellar like a shrine. Graham's face went gray. Celia scrolled. If she comes down, grab something from the client rack and pretend you chose wrong. She'll focus on that. My stomach turned. Martin's bottle had not been an impulsive mistake. It had been a decoy using someone else's property. You said you misunderstood the invitation, I said. I lied, Celia replied. Her voice shook, but she held my gaze. He said it was his wine and his house. I wanted to believe him. You knew it was our anniversary. Yes. There was no apology big enough for that room, and she didn't attempt one. Helen closed the folder in front of her. Mr. Mercer, were client or company funds used in connection with this relationship? No. I placed the disputed expense summary on the screen. Graham looked at Nina. She didn't look away. These were submitted to common table or the building account, I said. The restaurant charges, hotel charges, and transportation are being separated for review. Meridian can verify the underlying invoices before making any decision. Vivian pushed back from the table. This is vindictive. Please, Graham said. No, she has been waiting to humiliate you because you tried to be generous in a house she never lets you forget she paid for. Helen's brows lifted. Vivian pointed at me. I gave him the emergency code because he should not have to ask permission. I brought Celia to dinner because I thought seeing his wife might bring him to his senses. Everything I did was to protect this family. You gave him my code before that night? I asked. He needed wine for clients. Harmless things became secrets because you make every favor conditional. Graham closed his eyes. His mother had just converted his defense into a pattern. The Meridian partners left before dessert. They took the reports and none of the wine. Graham stood in the open doorway after the last car pulled away. You destroyed me. No, Nina said from behind us. You submitted false expenses and lied to investors. He turned on her. You're fired. I resigned this afternoon. She collected her coat. Celia left without speaking to him. Vivian followed, the little gold key still pinned to her chest. Graham and I remained among 12 untouched place settings. Is this what you wanted? He asked. No. What happens now? You return the $10,000. Your company signs the market rate lease or leaves, and I'm filing for divorce. He sat down slowly. For once, he did not bargain. Martin joined my Friday meeting by video. He confirmed that the system had caught the breach, preserved the evidence, and documented his bottle's condition. The restaurant group reinstated its purchasing review. The contract took another 9 weeks and 3 inspections before they signed. Meridian declined Graham's proposal. North Pier replaced both him and Celia. He moved his consultancy out of my building at the end of the lease and returned the household money through our accountant. The divorce took most of a year. We sold the house because neither of us could afford the memory of it alone. In my smaller kitchen, Nina set out 3 plain glasses, while Martin opened takeout cartons across the counter. Common Table's restaurant group contract lay signed beside them. I unlocked the walnut wine cabinet with a brass key. The Barolo rested inside without a tag. "Are you sure?" Nina asked. "No," I said. "Open it anyway." Martin eased out the cork and poured. The wine smelled of cherries, earth, and time that had become something other than what we planned. I folded my hand around the warm brass key and raised my glass.